Eric Ham is a U.S. political analyst and former congressional staffer. He's also the author of the GOP Civil War, Inside the Battle for the Soul of the Republican Party. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Eric, so right now there are a lot of concerns about the age of American politicians. You have U.S. President Joe Biden. He's the oldest American president. This is a day when he says that he passed his physical. Now, Mitch McConnell, there have also been concerns about his health the past several months. Is that what this retirement is about, or is it more about the fact that McConnell has been under growing pressure and facing increasing dissatisfaction from the wing of his party that's aligned with Donald Trump?
No, I think that's exactly what it is. But also, too, based on this ruling that just came down from the Supreme Court, there are also growing concerns over the role of the Supreme Court. And is it the true arbiter of America's laws, or is it becoming more partisan? And certainly Mitch McConnell, who today has announced that he is stepping down from leadership, is instrumental in the makeup of the court that we see now that holds many of these transformational decisions in their hands. And so Mitch McConnell, who has certainly been, I think, an impetus of obstruction and creating the polarization that the nation is witnessing and undergoing right now, much of that can be laid directly at the feet of Mitch McConnell. I mean, we have to remember he was the Senate leader who actually stopped the first Black president from actually appointing someone to the Supreme Court. And there were just many other decisions that were made by him that were clearly partisan, purely political. And we know that while he was the Senate Majority Leader, no major or instrumental legislation did he ever orchestrate through either the chamber or the Congress itself. And that includes monumental legislation such as Obamacare that we know was passed during the time that he was in office, though he wasn't the leader.
I mean, Eric, you made mention of this in your previous answer, but let's talk a little bit more about Mitch McConnell's influence on the American judiciary. In 2016, as you said, McConnell stopped President Obama from filling a Supreme Court vacancy. During the presidency of Donald Trump, the U.S. Senate confirmed 3 conservative justices to the Supreme Court. That very much tilted the ideological balance of the court. McConnell also worked closely with Trump to fill federal courts with Republican judges. So just how much did McConnell transform the face of the court system in the U.S.?
Well, let's look at it like this. Mitch McConnell is responsible for a majority of the lower court judges that actually serve on the court right now. So if you take out the Supreme Court, it is Mitch McConnell's hand that is actually on many of those lower court decisions, because while we look at Mitch McConnell refusing to give Merrick Garland a hearing at Barack Obama's behest, he also refused to actually bring forth a number of lower court justices. And when Donald Trump came into office, that's when we saw the floodgates open and a lot of those judges come in at that time. So the court that we're seeing now, and the court has now reached an all-time low by the American people because many people see the court as being highly partisan and purely political. A lot of that is because of the handiwork that was done by Mitch McConnell himself, who helped orchestrate Donald Trump in getting many of these justices on the bench.
And Eric, let me also ask you, how much has the Republican Party changed during McConnell's leadership? Because he's really seen the Republican Party undergo a huge ideological shift, especially during the Trump administration, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's ironic because Mitch McConnell, who has been craven with political power, and he was willing to allow Donald Trump to carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. But now we see the irony of it is that he is stepping down because those MAGA forces are now threatening his leadership. They're threatening his very survivability in the Senate because now we see that he is at odds with Donald Trump himself. And so we are seeing people like Josh Hawley and Rick Scott and others, Ted Cruz, who are not only pushing back on Mitch McConnell and his leadership, but they're pushing back on him in a way that is demeaning to him as a senator, but also as a long-term politician. And so what we're seeing here is Mitch McConnell is walking away, even at a time when he has now, through his own political machinations, set up the Senate to actually be the only chamber to possibly switch hands in this 2024 election. You have former Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, who surprised us all by announcing that he is running for the Senate in Maryland, which many people didn't expect. And that is directly a result of Mitch McConnell himself. So if the Senate actually changes hands, that will be directly because of Mitch McConnell, but he won't be there in leadership to actually take advantage of it because these forces are, in fact, working against him. And he recognizes that if they take control, he will not have the votes of this new Senate to actually be Senate leader.
All right. That's U.S. political analyst Eric Ham. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to get your perspective.
Thank you.